everyone, and welcome to the SSPI podcast by Space and Satellite Professionals International. I'm Tamara Bond Williams, Executive Director of SSPI. Today's episode is part of our series From Classroom to Community, produced with the support of Hughes, our lead campaign partner for the Signal to Soar campaign. Our episode today is called What Makes the Signal Hold? Across Africa, Southeast Asia, Oceania, and other geographically complex regions, connecting a school is only the beginning. The real test is whether that connection is reliable, scalable, and sustainable. What has to be true in the network so that a classroom can depend on it every day? To help us answer this question, we are pleased to welcome Vaibhav Magow, VP of the International Division at Hughes. Vaibhav leads the company's broadband systems and sales efforts across Asia Pacific, the Middle East, and Africa, Europe, and Russia. He works closely with satellite operators, mobile network operators, and national and local government agencies to tailor and implement high-performing and efficient satellite solutions that help connect the unconnected and enable enterprise digital transformation. A satellite communications and IT professional with more than 25 years of experience, Vaibhav has held leadership roles in sales, product development, marketing, and program management. Prior to his regional role, he focused on the Indian satellite market at Hughes Communications India. He holds a bachelor's degree of engineering in computer science from the University of Pune and frequently speaks at regional industry conferences and panels. Vaibhav, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Tamara. It's so nice to be speaking to you on this entirely important topic.
Thank you so much for being here. Listen, I want to just do two things that are very important. First of all, I want to confirm that I am, in fact, pronouncing your name correctly. Is it Vaibhav Magow?
Yes, it is. It's perfectly spot on.
Awesome. Okay. And then did I do okay with your introduction? Did I miss anything? How'd I
No,
do?
not at all. No, not at all. I think you're spot on. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Absolutely. All right. Well, then let's just jump right in, right? We've been having this conversation for a little while about connected schools and what they actually mean to a region when we do that. So let's start with some of your experience in many emerging markets. Schools are among the first public institutions that are targeted in national broadband strategies. From your experience across Africa, Asia Pacific, and other regions, why are schools prioritized when governments design these connectivity programs?
So, Tamara, I think in most of the emerging markets where I've had the chance to work with Hughes, schools are much more than places of learning. They really are community hubs. Uh, when you connect a school, you're not just connecting students and teachers, you're often connecting the entire village and that neighborhood.
Hmm.
Uh, and that's one of the reasons why when it comes to picking sites and locations uh, for government programs that are enhancing connectivity, schools are prioritized by the government because the moment you provide connectivity, it not only supports human capital development, which of course, as leads to learning outcomes, higher digital literacy, and opportunities for teachers to access training and global content. But then it also allows the community around the school to anchor and get more from that connection which comes into the school. And we see this across Africa and Asia Pacific. It's a powerful lever for long-term economic growth and social inclusion. Connecting a school doesn't only help a classroom, as I always say, it often becomes the digital heartbeat of the entire community.
Hmm.
So yeah, so in short, connecting schools becomes a very efficient way to advance national goals. You touch education, community development, and digital inclusion all at once.
Yeah. Let me ask you, that's a thing that gets said, but what does it mean like in practice? Is it a situation where it's like, well, the broadband is already here in the community, and so the rest of the community may as well go to school and make use of resources? Is it like that? Or is there some other way in which that value proliferates throughout the community?
Well, first of all, many times, and I have had the chance of uh, being involved in various community programs early on in my career back here in India,
Mm-hmm.
and my experience was that children don't only bring in uh, and come into school with their own work in mind. So of course the school would give them some work and they would use resources provided by the school. Back in the day, in those days, you didn't have everybody getting iPads or handheld devices from the government to school. The
Yeah.
school used to have some shared resources which either the teachers or the school students were allowed to use. And in those days, even in those days, the students not only bought their own work with them, but they also, after school, stayed back and did a little work for their family. You
Wow.
know, so they I won't say it was very fanciful in those days because there were very few applications, and today it's a much more rich internet environment we live in. But even then, sending an email to for the father to find out whether the goods that they had shipped reached on time or not. So they would do those kind of things,
Hmm.
uh, right? So that is one way of doing it. Another few examples we've had in Asia Pacific is when governments look to implement this, they often try to do this through a managed service partner or a provider, and of course, trying to find sustainability for these sites and locations is often important. And therefore, we've seen many governments also use the school premises after the school has finished.
Mm-hmm.
They either put Wi-Fi access points around in the neighborhood, extending it from the school. And once the school has finished, the connection can also be used by the community or by the students once they go back, back to their homes. They don't have to walk all the way to school to continue to get access. That's one of the kind of benefits that take place in some other projects. There's been uh, a mobile tower near the school that gets connected along with the school. So there are in different ways uh, governments try to make sure that they're not just connecting the school, but if they can, they try to extend that connectivity into the school, beyond the school as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that because like I said, I've heard of this so many times and we've been talking about it in the series, but I don't think that I've had the opportunity yet to have asked. And so really thank you for kind of giving us a clear couple of clear examples of how that actual extension actually works. So from a network perspective and keeping that broader community engagement in mind, what does a remote school actually require in order to function as this digital hub? Is it like latency, throughput, uptime? Is there a cost per bit? How does this actually work?
So I know it's a great question, Tamara, and thank you for that. So, if you really look at it for a school project to be successful, all four elements really matter.
Hmm.
You need the uptime, the throughput, you need good latency, and cost. But at the end, I think one of the things which really, really determines whether the school can function digitally is the combination of reliable connectivity and people who know how to use it. So
Mm.
the first is, of course, it's a given. You need high uptime
Mhm.
because if the connection works only occasionally, and when I mean uptime, it's not just that the equipment is working fine, but also that the quality of the signal as well as the speeds in the connection are good. And if the connection works only occasionally, teachers simply would not want to use or build digital tools into their lesson plans because nobody wants that hourglass and the class waiting and things kind of fall out of discipline. Then, of course, you need enough speeds or throughputs so that multiple students and teachers can be online at the same time. Latency becomes important for video interactive real time kind of live classes or video sessions from experts from the town or from urban areas. And of course, you need to make it affordable because affordability determines whether the service is sustainable for a long term for the school. So these are, I think, given. But like I mentioned, the other critical layer really is digital literacy. So
Mhm.
even the best network won't really make an impact unless the teachers, the staff in the school, they feel confident using online platforms, managing the devices, integrating digital resources into their teaching. When educators are trained and empowered, they are much more likely to use the connection in meaningful ways. And you have to do that consistently. It's in summary, it's really not just about the uptime. It's about teachers having the skills and the confidence to make connectivity part of everyday learning.
Yeah. I really appreciate that, Vaibhav. This week, Monday, my week started out with the tech gods apparently hating me. I don't know what I did to them, but they were mad at me. Nothing worked. I turned on my computer, it refused to turn on. It finally turned on, then it sat there and refused to do anything. I turned it back off.
Right.
This went on all day with several different machines. It's like I switched from desktop to laptop. Oh my gosh, it was a nightmare. And um and and the thing that jumps out at me is that I had easy access to why is this happening? I could look up on my phone and say, how do I fix this thing when this happens? And so I worked it through the whole day. It just a whole day lost because I had to deal with all these problems. That's not workable for a teacher at all. A
Oh,
teacher in a
yes.
classroom absolutely needs connectivity on the spot. Um, and and so, yeah, and if they're teachers, then they already know how to teach a classroom. So if the technology doesn't work, they stop using it. Right. But
Precisely.
yeah, but then what I thought about is, from what you were describing, what I was thinking about is that there's a level of competence that's hands-on because I'm the end user. And then there's a level of competence that is, who do I call when it's gotten beyond my skill set? And do you build that up in within a government? Do you build up that level of, here's the IT department for the government to manage this system?
So, in our experience, a difference between a project that thrives and one that slowly fades has less to do with technology and more to do with the people and the support structure around it.
Mm-hmm.
So the deployments that last are the ones where someone is truly looking out after the network, not just on a day one, but every week, every month. So
Mm-hmm.
there must be a plan for maintenance, a budget for upgrades, and most importantly, you need to pick a partner who doesn't disappear once the entire network or the equipment is installed.
Yeah.
That continuity eventually gives teachers the confidence to rely on digital tools without worrying that the connection will let them down. So it's really really important that it's all seamless. So what we really focus on is a managed solution, because that takes that complexity off their plate. Most schools don't have IT departments. They
Mm-hmm.
might have one tech savvy teacher, who's kind of doing three jobs other than teaching already. And if you expect them to manage different connectivity layers and then troubleshoot some routers and coordinate multiple vendors, it's just not realistic.
Yeah.
So that managed solution takes that complexity off their plate. The network is monitored, issues are resolved proactively, service levels are clearly defined. This consistently really matters a lot to educators. Teachers
Yeah.
need to know that when they walk into a class and open a learning platform, it will work.
Yeah.
So, where simplicity is a nice to have, it's a prerequisite for adoption. The less time the schools and teachers are spending on network issues, the more time they can spend on teaching and learning, right? So that really is very, very important when we are trying to plan and deliver such projects.
Yeah. I'm chuckling because, my son in the past year has become a school teacher. He was an engineer and switched to teaching in high school. And I'm always amazed at the number of things that actually entails that were not things that he
Wow,
signed up
that's
for.
that that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like he's like, well, I'm planning the school trip. I'm like, was that your job description? No. But I'm doing it. It's like, okay.
Yeah,
So,
no, teachers do so many things, right? In different countries. Like in India,
uh-huh.
during the
Yeah.
elections, teachers are even the first people to have who have to volunteer, especially government teachers. They are
Wow.
the first volunteers to make sure that they participate and help be the people who coordinate these elections and are manning booths or just helping coordinate so many things, because many times the schools are the ones that are used in India for holding elections, the actual
Yes.
rooms, etc., where the ballots take place. So school teachers really they get pulled in to do so many things.
Yeah, same here. Same here. I vote at my local high school. And yeah, exactly. Which goes again to this idea that providing the tools specifically to schools, as you say, it has a broader impact, even indirectly, because of empowering teachers, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, so let me ask you, you've given me some really great examples. You've worked in a lot of different places. Was there a specific school or community visit where you actually saw that the connectivity had made a transformative impact on the environment in a very tangible way? Can you tell us something about that?
So back in about I 2009, 2010, 2011, we were doing a lot of community connectivity programs in India. There were some very uh, big rollouts that the Indian government was doing in the villages. And as part of that entire effort, we were also providing interactive education content for people to come up in villages and learn beyond what they were learning in school. And as part of that, one of the programs we did was there was this very fine organization back in the capital of India, Delhi, who used to offer English learning courses, and that whole content that they built was very nice, digitally interactive. They had very nice teachers and educators, and that program was really built and coordinated by the BBC. And in fact, at the end of the learning course, you got a nice certificate from the BBC,
Wow.
and it helped people not just learn English but actually speak English. And in many of the rural areas, with our local dialects, etc., a lot of the children who pass out, they're very heavy, thick accents.
Mm-hmm.
And often when they come down, after their primary education, they come to look for jobs, and things like this. And many of them really take vocational jobs immediately after finishing basic primary education and don't really have the means to go on for higher education. So, but when they come for these vocational jobs, if they don't have a proper dialect or they don't have proper command over the language and speak properly, they don't do well in the interviews.
Right.
So teaching them English was such an important thing, but we were very worried whether this whole interactive course would actually work. In those days, there was no Teams and Zoom. We had to use very sophisticated and expensive software to kind of broadcast the course over the satellite. But then at the same time, there was video interactivity possible for students in classrooms
Mm-hmm.
back into the professor, so they could actually see him, talk to him, and he could teach them in actions and things like this, almost like a classroom experience.
Wow.
And we ran those courses, multiple courses in multiple provinces for number of times. And we had close to, if I'm not mistaken, 8 to 10,000 children who came and took those English classes. I
Wow.
had the occasion whenever I used to go into these village locations, and visit these centers. I had the occasion of actually coming across and seeing some of these children, and it was such a great pleasure to see them. They were Those were the days when when you opened your internet in India, it was so slow. You had just 3G in the villages. You really didn't even have 4G, and things. Seeing a video, a picture of a professor teaching them on a computer screen without any flicker or any problems itself was such a big thing for them.
Wow.
So I still remember that engagement very fondly, because it was not just providing the internet access to somebody, and then the teachers use tools, etc., that the school has given, or the university has given and teach, but we were also doing some content, and we were trying to qualify the content. So it was very, very enriching experience.
Wow. Yeah, I really love the visual that you set and the reminder. We take so many things for granted once we've had them for a little while, but yeah, it was not that long ago that Zoom and Teams were not a thing. And so,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, no, and now satellite has only gotten better with high
Yeah.
throughput satellites, and with everything that the industry now is seeing. It's become faster, it's become more affordable, it's become so much more easier and simpler to organize and run these networks than it was in the past. So yes, with time passage, technology has improved, tools have improved, and I think it's become even more widely accepted that digital learning is the way to really make sure that in unconnected areas, people don't lag behind with education.
Yeah.
You are listening to The Better Satellite World, the longest running continuous podcast in the commercial space and satellite industry. The Better Satellite World podcast is funded by the corporate partners of SSPI, Hughes, Axis Intelligence, the American Space Exploration Children's Trust Fund, and Qvia. Have you heard about SBQ? Space Business Qualified is a popular online learning program for industry professionals designed by JSOA, SSPI, and SatProf. To learn more, visit spacebq.org. Will we see you at the inaugural Night of Excellence? Held on March 24th, 2026, SSPI is pleased to invite you to celebrate this year's 20 Under 35 and witness the induction ceremony for the 2026 Hall of Fame. Tickets to the SSPI Night of Excellence are on sale now. To get your tickets, visit sspiexcellence.com. And now back to the Better Satellite World.
Vaibhav, because of the pandemic, when we were doing the whole pandemicing thing, I had to shift. I have an interfaith choir that I run. I'm the director for, and of course, we were we were shut down. So all of a sudden, choir rehearsal was by Zoom, which is
Right.
horrifying. It just does not work because of lag. You can't sing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you play the music and they hear it 3 seconds later, and that's a lot of time in music.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm longing for the day that that lag almost disappears, because this again, I have a major concert next week Saturday, and I've missed at least 3 rehearsals because of snow. And so I'm like, oh boy, when does the technology let me have actual Zoom rehearsals and I don't have to anyway? Okay, that was a sidebar. But I'm telling you now, if you guys figure this out, please call me because I would like to know. So,
No, absolutely. I think one of the interesting things which is happening now is that apart from the geostationary satellites, you also have LEO constellations,
mhm.
and and with LEO constellations, they are much closer to the Earth, so they offer much lower latency than the geo satellites. And one of the things, obviously, you benefit with that is that when you're using video or real time video interaction, the lag is much lesser, and it feels almost like you would be doing it on a 5G network, right?
Wow.
On your phone. So it's really really amazing. You just don't feel the difference. You really don't realize you're over a satellite network. And uh, and and then today there are technologies where you can take best of both the worlds, the geo and the leo, combine them together, and implement them for projects like these large school rollouts that a lot of the governments have been doing.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about that, right? So, we're in this moment where this is the discussion that we're having all across the industry is hybrid orbit connectivity. Um, eh, h- what does that do for schools to have that hybrid connectivity? Is it just what you said, that example that you gave, that all of a sudden you can have a live in classroom experience? It can feel like it's real and live, or are there other benefits to schools to have that hybrid availability?
You know, one of the challenges that schools often face is that as you when you deploy initially, the general feeling is that the usage will not be very high, or let's say that the estimation of consumption is a little bit more conservative. But once you provide this tool to children in schools and to teachers, the the usage really ramps up very fast, and especially if there is some sort of a community usage allowed, or there's some way that the community also can use that connection at the school. So uh, pretty much you need to add more capacity into these networks.
Hmm.
And also, like we were talking about, real time video kind of communication, etc. So when you combine the geo and leo, not only do you get best of both the worlds, like I said, but you also get the ability. The school gets the ability to have a much more robust connection, which means that if one link is affected by weather or some other issue, the other one takes over. You know,
Yeah.
you can also do some very intelligent kind of things where if there is an application like Teams, or a kind of an application which is very sensitive over when the latency is poor. So when you have better latency, Teams runs much more smoothly on Leo. So you can take all that traffic and it can automatically go over Leo, and the bandwidth heavy or less critical traffic comes over Geo. And generally, Geo can be very price competitive because you can put a lot of capacity and bandwidth over a location.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use the best qualities of both these networks and kind of combine them and offer it to schools. So yeah, it's a you should think of Geo and Leo like as a team. One
Yeah.
brings reach and the other brings capacity, right?
Yeah.
Along with things like speed. So together they can keep schools connected even when the conditions are challenging.
Thank you for that. That helps really frame the meaning in an important way. So with that in mind, let me just talk a little bit about continuity. Um, Obviously, governments make this big investment. We want to connect the school. It has this outsized influence. Of course, it supports the learning process in the school, but it also supports the wider community. How how do you get that initial engagement to last so that 5 years from now it's still going and it's still supporting the community? And especially I'm really curious because like you said, once people get the hang of it, once people recognize that the system is, it's you can rely on it, then they use it. And so like you say, that reach of the system, the usage of the system goes up exponentially. So how do you keep it going across 5 years or more?
So one of the things that in my experience I've seen is that the difference between a project that thrives and the one that fades away, it's less to do with technology and more with the people and the support structure around it.
Mhm.
Uh, so the deployments that last usually are the ones where someone is truly looking after the network, not just on day one, but every week, every month. There's a plan for maintenance, there's a budget to do upgrades, and then like I said earlier, right? You just can't have a partner that will just disappear.
Yeah.
So it's really really important, and I think the real secret ingredient is to get that local engagement, because when teachers, principals, and why only them, even community members feel ownership, when they are trained properly, they are comfortable, and it comes to the point where they start seeing this connection as theirs, right? There's an ownership that sets in. It becomes a part of the school's DNA.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you know the project starts really really excelling. When that human piece is missing, technology, no matter how good you plan it, etc., etc., it'll struggle to stay relevant for that
Yeah.
long period.
I love that you said that because obviously, well, I don't know if it's obvious to everybody. I feel it. I feel a degree of existential concern, let's put it that way, about the reach of technology these days. Obviously, AI is such a big disruptor right now. Um, and yet, there's so many ways in which that I have engaged with tools that are built around AI, and you say, well, this is really incredible, right up until the point where it's not. And you say, wait, I'm a human and I don't think this way. That's not how I would do this. And so therefore this is no longer working for me. Um, like that human, somebody to look at the system and say, this is us. This is how our community actually functions, to make sure that the technology is working with the community and not imposing on the community seems very important.
The technology should fade away in the background once it's implemented, and then the benefits are the only thing that should be the focus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I have really enjoyed this conversation. I have one more question. I might have more than one question, but I have one more question. Uh, I was I was thinking about you guys had this big launch last year of the I think it was last year, it might have been the year before, of the your newest Jupiter satellite. And so your Jupiter system overall has been upgraded significantly. And I've been trying to think about, like you said, Geo and Leo are a team. At the same time, you've been doing this for a really long time, right? You've been in the schools for years. You mentioned a deployment from even 2010, which is already 15 years ago, which is shocking, but okay, it's true. um, um, when you have these massive rollouts, something like a Jupiter 3, I think, um, uh, how does that deploy, or does it deploy to local schools? Does the whole school system get an upgrade, or is like, hey, you know what, good enough is good enough. We're not going to upgrade. This will be a deployment for another system. How does that work?
So, the Jupiter system is really the engine behind a lot of the connectivity projects that we've delivered. Uh, it's a platform that allows service providers and governments to connect not a few but thousands of remote sites,
Mm-hmm.
schools, in a way that it's efficient, scalable, and it's cost efficient. One of the biggest advantages that the technology lends to these networks is performance. Each Jupiter terminal actually delivers up to 300 megabits per second kind of speeds, which means the school can comfortably run digital learning platforms, video lessons, cloud-based tools, multiple devices at the same time. You know, basically there's no limiting factor. The network does not really become the limiting factor.
Mm-hmm.
It's very scalable, flexible. We spoke a little bit earlier that you know uh, you can start with one school, so the program can expand. That's one way that you can scale. So you start with some schools, and the government gets confidence that yes, this really works, this is sustainable, this is manageable. Gets faith in the delivery as well as the stakeholders, and then they start expanding it with more budgets to dozens or hundreds of schools without having to redesign the network. That's one way it's very scalable. Another way that it's scalable is that it integrates very easily with terrestrial infrastructure, and like I said, you can add some community Wi-Fi hotspots, which is incredible value in areas where the school then becomes a digital hub for the entire village. I mean, schools don't work on weekends, right?
Yeah.
Or you may so on those days, all of that capacity which is available to serve the schools could be used for community programs or some community learning or for community Wi-Fi. Uh, Another key piece that Jupyter has always contributed is cost efficiency. And the way that works is that there is advanced bandwidth management, and we come up with these shared capacity models. Jupyter helps keep the cost per site because of these capabilities very manageable. This is essential because funding comes from governments, ministries of education, right, or
Yeah.
NGOs, or even universal service programs. So being cost efficient is really important. And then, last but not the least, it's very reliable and a secure system. So it's built for high availability, even in harsh environments. Extreme heat, humidity, cold, you name it. For a remote school with no IT staff on site, that is non-negotiable, right? Reliability, it's non-negotiable. Teachers need to trust that when they open that lesson, we spoke about that, right? If they start a video call, the connection will just work. So for
Yeah.
us, the Jupiter system and the technology brings together this performance, scalability, cost effectiveness, and the resilience, which is just what you need if you want to connect not just one school, hundreds of them, and then make sure that they keep connected for many years.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Vaibhav. This conversation has been really helpful for me to really kind of put together a mental framework of just the kinds of impact that we can have when we're deploying satellite for schools. And so, Vaibhav, thank you so very, very much for being here and helping illuminate all of that.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, Tamara. It's always a wonderful conversation to have with you, and I hope that our path cross soon.
I do too. Are you going to satellite this year?
Of course, I will be there.
Yay, yay, yay. Okay, I hope I see you there. I will be there. And I hope that you will be at the Night of Excellence, which will happen on Tuesday of the show. But we can talk about that. So, okay. This has been What Makes the Signal Hold, part of our series From Classroom to Community in SSPI's Signal to Soar campaign, made possible by Hughes, our lead campaigns partner. We thank Vaibhav Magow for joining us. This podcast is made possible by the support of SSPI's professional, student, and corporate members. We are especially grateful for our corporate partners, Access Intelligence, producers of Via Satellite Magazine, and of course, the 2026 Satellite Show, the American Space Exploration Children's Trust Fund, formerly known as the Space Shuttle Children's Trust Fund, underwriters of our new campaign that launches in March called the Space Safety Economy, the law firm of Clyde and Company, and also Hughes, an EchoStar company, and Qvia, both of whom are executive sponsors of the inaugural SSPI Night of Excellence. We thank them for their support. To learn more about SSPI, visit sspi.org and follow us on X at SSPI, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. New episodes of the SSPI podcast, including the Better Satellite World podcast, the Satellite Futures podcast, and She Reaches Women in Space, are released every Monday. Subscribe at sspi.org/SSPI-podcast. Also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, these podcasts are also available on YouTube at SSPI Video, all one word. For SSPI and our producer, Ari Yates, I am Tamara Bond-Williams. And for the people and companies building a space and satellite future worthy of our highest aspirations, thank you for all that you do.